Sing 2. The film opens with Mina, Tori Kelly, running through the woods. She falls down a hole and ends up in a magical type of forest. It turns out she is part of a musical production of Alice in Wonderland, where she, Johnny, Taron Egerton, Rosita, Reese Witherspoon, and Gunther, Nick Kroll, are performing Let's Get Crazy. Buster, Matthew McConaughey, is keeping an eye out for a talent scout, Suki, Chelsea Peretti, as she is one of the top scouts in the business, and he hopes that she can catapult them to the big leagues. However, Mrs. Crawley, Garth Jennings, spots that Suki is leaving before the second act. Buster chases after her, and she tells him that, while the show is good enough for local theater, he and his cast don't have what it takes to make it big. Buster refuses to take no for an answer and chases after Suki in her taxi. She lets him know that her boss is holding auditions in Red Shore City, but she has the driver shake Buster off, and he crashes into the river. Buster returns to the theater feeling dejected. He talks to Nana Noodleman, Jennifer Saunders, who encourages him to not let negative criticism get him down if he has faith in himself and his cast. Buster later goes to a concert venue where Scarlett Johansson, is performing Heads Will Roll. She is happy to see Buster, but then finds that the club manager shorted her on her payment based on what he thinks the performers deserve. Ash says she won't let guys like that dictate her worth, so she joins Buster. Buster gathers the gang to take a bus to Red Shore City, but Johnny and Mina express doubts in themselves because of what Suki said. The bus nearly leaves without them, but Rosita stops the bus and convinces the gang to head out since performing in Red Shore City has been a childhood dream of hers. Also, she got Norman, Nick Offerman, to babysit the piglets for 24 hours, and she is not going to pass up that opportunity. The gang arrives in Red Shore City, a Vegas-like city of dreams and amazement. They arrive at Crystal Entertainment, but the lady at the front desk snobbishly tells them they can't go in because they didn't book an appointment. Not wanting to just give up, Buster sneaks the gang to the employees' closet and dresses them up as janitors so they can sneak into the main room. Backstage, they watch as hotshot entertainment mogul Jimmy Crystal, Bobby Cannavale, watches the acts and appears disappointed with all of them. Before Buster and his gang have a second to perform, Jimmy shuts them down quickly. However, Gunther catches his attention when he improvises an idea for a sci-fi musical called Out of This World, featuring legendary rock star Clay Calloway, Bono. Jimmy is hooked to the idea, with the gang further convincing him by singing Where the Streets Have No Name. Jimmy loves the idea and gives Buster 3 weeks to put the show together or he will throw Buster off the roof, and he's not kidding. Suki spots Buster and is surprised to see him, but she warns him that he doesn't know what he's getting into. Buster scrambles to get a crew or even an idea for how to put on the show. Gunther helps come up with the basic plotline for the show, even though he doesn't have an ending in mind. With time running out, Buster sends Mrs. Crawley to find Calloway and bring him to the show. He sets up Rosita to be the star of the show, with Johnny to perform a dance number and for Ash to do a duet with Calloway. However, Mina brings up to Buster that she has a romance scene written for her and she is nervous because she has never had a boyfriend. Buster hires big-time actor Darius, Eric Andre, to be Mina's partner, but he is full of himself and doesn't even bother to remember Mina's name. Mrs. Crawley drives to Calloway's home, which is on private property, and has a sign to warn trespassers to leave. When she approaches, Calloway rides a motorcycle near her and fires a paintball gun at her, frightening her into running away and causing her to drop her eye. Buster sets Johnny up to get dance lessons from the top dance instructor in town, Klaus Kakenkleber, Adam Buxton. Johnny does his best but is brought down because Klaus is such a jerk. Meanwhile, Buster tries to get Rosita to try out her part as the lead, but she faints when she realizes she has to do a bungee jump. Jimmy brings his ditzy daughter Portia, Halsey, to come check the set out since she is a fan of Calloway, or at least, whatever is vintage. After Rosita fails, Portia grabs the harness and does the jump herself, impressing others and convincing Jimmy to let her be in the show. The only problem is, Portia is a terrible actress. While Mina does a practice run with Darius, she goes outside when she is feeling brought down by his egotistical behavior. She meets another elephant named Alfonso, Pharrell Williams, who runs an ice cream business with treats he makes himself. He sees how she is dressed and refers to her as a goddess, giving her free ice cream as well. Mina is immediately smitten by him, but makes a fool of herself by walking into the door and splattering the ice cream on herself. Mrs. Crawley returns to Buster in a panicked state after her encounter with Calloway. Buster is then called to Jimmy's office, where he is enraged to learn that his guys spoke to Calloway's lawyer and learned that he doesn't even know Buster. The only reason that he is allowing the show to continue is because Portia is in it. Buster promises to fix things, and he tells the others that he is going to Calloway's home on his own, but Ash chooses to join him. Buster and Ash drive to Calloway's home, where he tells them to go away. They attempt to climb the fence against his warnings, but the two get electrocuted and knocked unconscious. When Buster wakes up, he hears that Calloway has already declined to join the show since he hasn't performed in over 15 years after the death of his wife Ruby. He orders Buster to leave, but Ash says she will stay because she thinks she needs a little more time to get through to Calloway. Ash stays to play some music for Calloway, and he sits to listen. Johnny tries to work on his dance skills when he spots a street performer named Nushi, Letitia Wright. He asks her to sit down and chat so that she can help him work on his moves. He proves his talent by belting out, "There's nothing holding me back" in front of the whole cafe, and Nushi agrees to help. She meets with Klaus, who is not happy that Johnny went behind his back to get extra help, but Nushi proves to be an encouraging teacher to Johnny. He gets good enough that Klaus clearly starts to feel threatened. Buster watches Rosita and Portia perform the show, but he cannot deal with Portia's bad acting anymore. He tries to get her to agree to switch roles with Rosita, but Portia takes this as Buster firing her. Jimmy calls Buster into his office, but Ash calls Buster first and lets him know that Calloway has agreed to join the show. When Buster goes into Jimmy's office, he is furious when he believes he fired Portia. It brings him close enough to actually attempt to throw Buster off the roof. He only stops because he is called to do an interview where he tells the interviewer that he is shutting down the show and that Buster and his cast are second-rate. He locks Buster in his office, but Suki gets him out and tells him to leave the city for good or Jimmy really will kill him. Buster warns Mrs. Crawley and the rest of the gang to leave the hotel before Jimmy finds them. The gang seems ready to leave for good, but when Johnny offhandedly jokes about putting on the show behind Jimmy's back, that's exactly what Buster decides to do. The gang escapes from Jimmy's security after he learns Buster broke free. He rounds up the night crew to help set the stage, and Johnny calls his father, Big Daddy, Peter Serafinovich, to bring his guys to handle security and keep Jimmy away, along with the piglets disrupting security and keeping them busy. Buster makes a big announcement across the city to bring guests in, saying it's a free show and promising Calloway's appearance. They have a nearly packed audience coming in. Buster has Mrs. Crawley convince Portia to come back as an alien character, and Mina becomes nervous when she sees Alfonso sitting in the front row. Jimmy's assistant Jerry alerts him about the show happening, and he gets his entourage ready to head to the theater. The show starts with Rosita assuming the role of the star traveling to distant planets in search of a missing explorer, played by Calloway. She first ends up on the planet of War, where Johnny plays the warrior singing A Sky Full of Stars. Klaus becomes envious of Johnny's newfound talent, and he takes the role of Johnny's opponent from his other partner Ryan. Klaus battles Johnny and knocks him down, telling him he will never be great. Johnny finds the courage within him and performs the moves Nushi showed him to perfection, bringing Klaus down and getting him to bow down to him. Jimmy and his gang make it to the theater, but Big Daddy and his guys do their best to hold him back. Rosita's character then ends up on the planet of Joy, where Portia plays the alien, singing Could Have Been Me. Even though Jimmy is angry at her, she defiantly continues to perform in front of him. Jimmy tries to stop the show, but Buster traps him under the stage. The next scene has Mina acting out her scene with Darius. She envisions Alfonso as her partner, them singing I Say a Little Prayer together, and the crowd cheers for the two of them. Unfortunately, Jerry comes to break Jimmy out. Rosita is set to perform her big jump scene with Gunther, but Jimmy catches up to Buster and attempts to throw him from a great height down into the vortex, where Rosita is said to make her big jump. Rosita overcomes her fear and catches Buster, throwing him to safety and managing to perform her big scene with Gunther to break free. The climax of the show happens as Ash is set to perform her duet with Calloway, but he suddenly feels like he just made a mistake and isn't ready, even though Ash encourages him. She walks up alone and starts to perform I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For, and Calloway feels Ruby's spirit next to him, giving him the strength to join Ash, and the crowd goes wild. The show proves to be a big hit, but Jimmy tries to take credit for it. When he tries to credit Buster, Calloway and the gang, he turns around to find they all walked out on him, leaving him humiliated. Suki then has Jimmy arrested for trying to kill Buster. The audience gives Buster and the gang a standing ovation. The gang starts to make their way out of the city, with Portia joining them. Suki then rides up to catch up with the bus to tell the gang that the Majestic Theater wants them to perform out of this world for a long-term gig. Buster asks Calloway if he is up for it, and he agrees. The show later debuts at the theater, and Buster watches with Nana in amazement as it debuts to a huge audience. Buster Moon and his gang of animal performers, Rosita, Johnny, Mina, Ash, and Gunther, are set to take their talents to the big leagues, but a talent scout named Suki tells Buster that she doesn't think he has what it takes to go big. Not wanting to go down so easy, Buster learns that Suki's boss is holding auditions in Redshore City, and he brings the whole gang along to show off their talents. They go to Crystal Entertainment and meet ruthless mogul Jimmy Crystal, who only agrees to let Buster put on a show when Gunther says they can get legendary retired rock star Clay Calloway to be part of the show. Buster scrambles to get the show together. Rosita is set to be the star, but has a fear of heights for a big stunt, so Jimmy's daughter Portia takes the lead, even though she is a terrible actress. Johnny works on his dance skills under a harsh instructor named Klaus, but he finds more luck with a street performer named Nushi. Mina has trouble playing a romantic scene with her acting partner Darius until she meets another elephant named Alfonso, who has a mutual attraction to her. Ash helps Buster try and get Calloway to join the show, but he refuses to go since he stopped performing after the death of his wife Ruby. Jimmy soon learns that Buster has been lying to him and almost kills him, but instead locks him away even after Ash manages to convince Calloway to join. Buster is freed by Suki, who tells him and the gang to flee the city or face Jimmy's wrath. Buster instead decides to put the show on behind Jimmy's back with the help of other friends and family members. Portia becomes part of the gang against her dad's demands, and Buster gets an audience set for the show. While the acts prove to be a hit with the audience, like Johnny winning a dance battle against Klaus, Jimmy tries to sabotage the show and actually attempt to kill Buster, but Rosita does her stunt and saves Buster. The show ends with Calloway joining Ash for a duet of one of his songs, and the show is a huge hit. Although Jimmy tries to take credit for the show, Suki has him arrested for trying to kill Buster. Before the gang leaves the city, Suki catches up to them and tells them that another major theater wants them to do their show. The gang and Calloway all agree to join.